Hello, class. So let's get started with Module 1, where we will read a selection of poetry from the 19th century, that means the 1800s, and from the 20th century, meaning the 1900s. So in this module, we will work on our close reading skills as we read and discuss the work of four poets: Ghalib from India, Rainer Maria Rilke from Prague in the Austria-Hungary Empire, William Wordsworth from England, and Seamus Heaney from Ireland. If you do not have a textbook yet, I hope you get one as soon as possible. You can find the PDFs of this reading under Module 1 Reading Materials. So, our first poet is Ghalib. Mirza Asadullah Beg Khan. This is his real full name. He's otherwise known by his pen name, Ghalib. He lived in India in the 19th century. We will look at four of his couplets found on pages 630 to 631 of our textbook. Now, these are short two-line or really two-sentence poems. Now, our poems are translated into English from Urdu, which is a language spoken in northern India and Pakistan. So after reading these four brief poems, read the instructor's material on Ghalib. Then turn to the discussion board and answer all of the questions to the best of your ability. Next, read our next poet, Rainer Maria Rilke. Rilke was a poet who lived at the turn of the 19th and 20th centuries in the city of Prague, in what is now the Czech Republic, but back then it was part of what was known as the Austro-Hungary Empire. So his poem, The Panther, is on page 1146 of our textbook. In this poem, he describes a caged panther that he saw in the Jardin des Plantes, which is a botanical garden and zoo in the center of the city of Paris, France. So imagine seeing this exotic creature in a park in the middle of the bustling city of Paris. After reading this poem closely, read the instructor's material on Rilke, and then turn to the discussion questions on the discussion board. The next poet we will look at is William Wordsworth, a famous English poet from the Romantic period. The Romantic period is between the end of the 18th century to the end of the 19th century. And in this sense, romantic does not refer to relationships and love, but a period in European literature where poets often wrote about their appreciation for nature and their fellow man, where they favored powerful emotions over cold and calculating reason, and where they expressed a fascination for the supernatural and for the metaphysical. Wordsworth's poem, The World is Too Much With Us, contains a lot of these very themes. It is also a sonnet, which is a popular European poetic form consisting of 14 lines, a stanza of 8 lines in the beginning, which is called an octave, and a stanza of 6 lines at the end, which is called a sestet. In this particular poetic form, there is a change of tone in the middle of the poem, at the end of the octave or at the beginning of the sestet. This change of tone is called the volta. Volta is the Italian word for turn. So notice in his poem how the tone changes at the middle of the 9th line when he writes, "Great God, I'd rather be a pagan suckled in a creed outworn." This is a different emotion from the sad and downcast tone of the previous lines. So after reading this poem carefully, read through the instructor's material and then turn to the questions on the discussion board. The last poet we will read is Seamus Heaney. He's a contemporary poet from Ireland. His poem, Digging, contains an interesting parallel between the poet and his father, where the father's digging in a potato field is likened to the digging that Haney would do with his writing. So let's think about that. In what ways is writing poetry similar to the act of digging? I look forward to reading your responses on the discussion board, and I'll see you there.